if say a bank robbers or people that are committing a murder are using track phones, there's nothing to trace them. Their name isn't connected to their phone. They just walked into a 7-Eleven and bought a burner phone with some minutes on it. Is there any way for cops to trace that back to them?
So the answer is potentially yes. And to answer this, I need to explain, which is a hot topic, something called a geofence warrant and what that yields. So a geofence warrant is, let's say there's a crime scene. We'll just call it First and Main, right? I think First and Main is where the LA chief of police is. But let's say there's a shooting in front of the building, but it's a crowded area, right? There's pedestrians, there's cars. But what the cops can do is tell Google, here's our 4 latitude and longitude points, and we want you to give us every phone number for the relevant time period that's within that square. So that's called a geofence.
And they go to Google to request that, right?
Correct. And then Google gives them phone numbers that are anonymized so that they're not infringing on the rights of everybody. But what ends up happening is Google ends up, so the cops then investigate and then they say, okay, I've got these 3 numbers. I think it's him, et cetera, whatever it is. Then they can go back to Google with another warrant and then they can get subscriber information.
Wow.
That's for subscribers. Right. Now, for what you call the track phone,
bat phone, burner phone.
Well, I call them burners. So they can go to the burner and probably figure out where it was purchased.
Right. And then they go grab that surveillance footage.
Right. But they need to do that quick because video disappears usually up to 30 days.
Oh, interesting. So that's not stored in the cloud somewhere? That's public surveillance?
So my answer is when I try to get video after 30 days, a lot of the times I hear that it's been erased. But let me give you more to the story and we'll talk about something called timing advance. Okay. This is a good one. You're going to like this. Okay. Timing advance. So everyone knows when I'm on the phone, my cell phone is talking to a tower, right? Cell site tower, and they can show when the call started, which tower, what numbers are involved, et cetera. But what you might not know is even if you're not on your phone, you're not texting, your phone is sitting idle, that your phone is sending a signal to a nearby tower saying, hi guys, here I am. And that's how the phone is trying to figure out if you make a call, where to go. So the time that it takes for the signal to reach the tower and then come back, that is called timing advance. Now that gives more precise location data. So what it looks like is, here's your cell tower. It looks like a clown smile. So in other words, we know you're so many feet away from the tower. So you must be somewhere along this radius. Right. And it looks like a clown because there's a margin of error. So that's if your cell phone is not, you're not on your phone.
I met a guy who used to sit at the chow hall with him. He had killed an old woman. He was, addicted, strung out. He was robbing an old lady in her house and he ended up killing her. He turned his cell phone off, put it in his backpack, went and just threw the backpack into a dumpster somewhere, and they were able to turn his cell phone back on. That's the thing. This was back in 2010, 2007, actually. Right. Have you seen tricks like that? The cops, is it true that they can hear you with a smartphone? Even if my phone's turned off, they can listen in?
So that one, I have not had a case where that came about, but I do have sort of an eerie, make you concerned and paranoid. Yeah. There's something called the Stingray. What the Stingray does is that so it's similar in concept to the geofence warrant, but now you've got a box and you've got your black box. And if you put it in a location, it will trick every cell phone into thinking it's a tower. So this thing can suck up every phone number in a region.
without a warrant.
Right.
Now, if you had a Stingray, if say you were working you had a murder case, something like a Stingray that grabs your client's number, would you try to suppress that, or would you try to argue constitutional privacy violations to try to suppress that evidence?
So the answer is actually very interesting. The manufacturer of the Stingray is called Harris Corporation. And the technology is basically like anti-terrorist level.
Right.
And if a law enforcement officer is in, let's say, a motion to suppress, and I ask the question, was a Stingray device used at any point in this investigation? Harris Corporation makes every agency sign that they will not let them answer that. So what happens is we can then make a motion to dismiss the case because they won't answer. And judges sometimes do.
Wow.
So the prosecutors protect that technology at that level. Now, we talked about a case I did for Danny Pena, and we were convinced that the way they found his prison phone was through a Stingray. So I started doing discovery requests. Discovery requests means I'm asking for evidence. So this is funny. I did a subpoena from the Ventura County Board of Supervisors, and I proved that they bought a Stingray. I proved that they paid $130,000 for it. And when I asked for discovery on whether it was used, the prosecutor and the main cop did an evidentiary privilege motion where they basically went in the back with the judge and they said, Your Honor, this is part of an ongoing investigation. You can't give Rosenberg the evidence that he seeks.
How is that legal?
Well, I don't know what they said, right? It's in camera.
Right.
It's under seal.
Right.
So prosecutors have advantages like that we don't.